So the question stated, can Muslims receive heparin since it has porcine components? So porcine, of course, is some pork-related ingredient. So maybe you can answer this specific to necessary prescriptions that have some pork-derived ingredient, or even things that are not necessarily essential, like vitamins or et cetera, that have some pork-derived ingredient.
Okay. So in general, medications that come from haram sources, is it permissible to use medications that come from haram sources? There are certain conditions, there are certain things they agree on. So if you have a halal alternative, then it is not, if you have a halal comparable alternative, like a halal alternative that will do just as good as a job as the other medicine that is haram, then it would certainly not be halal to use the haram medicine or the medicine that comes from a haram source. And that is by agreement. Now, barring that particular exception, is it halal to use certain haram medications? You will find that the Hanafis and Shafi'is are the most lenient in this regard, and the Malikis and Hanbalis are the strictest in this regard. And there is a reason why they are like this. You know, it has to do with their interpretation of the hadith where the Prophet ﷺ advised the Uraniyin to drink camel's urine. So people's interpretations varied. The Malikis and Hanbalis didn't consider camel's urine to be najis, impure, or haram. And the Hanafis and Shafi'is considered it to be impure, but considered this prescription, the prophetic prescription, to be basically a proof that you could use najis, impure substances for the purpose of treatment. So if you don't have an alternative, then the use of impure substances, whether porcine or other substances, would be permissible according to the majority. At least the Hanafis and Shafi'is will say permissible categorically. If you have no alternative, the use of impure substances will be permissible according to the Hanafis and Shafi'is. The Malikis and Hanbalis will ask you further questions, and it is very possible that they will also say it is halal. Because if, for instance, for Malikis and Hanbalis, topical application would be halal. For the Hanbalis, they mentioned if you don't consume it, if you don't eat it or drink it, it would be halal. What if it's an injection? They did not have injections at the time, but they were talking about topical application. But then there are other issues also. Basically, trivial amount. Is it a trivial amount? Is it mustahlak, meaning subsumed in another liquid or substance, subsumed in another substance that all of its characteristics, qualities have completely disappeared because it was completely subsumed in another substance. So there will be other questions to be asked. So the bottom line is, if there is no halal alternative, the majority of the scholars will consider it permissible to use impure and haram substances for treatment. There is one exception where it is flipped. That is khamr, basically pure khamr. You know, any alcoholic beverage that is meant to, for drinking is not allowable to use as a medicine by the majority. Now, that is not alcohol mixtures. That is pure alcohol. That is a pure alcoholic beverage. There is no pure alcohol in the sense that 100% alcohol, but an alcoholic beverage. Like you can't drink whiskey, for instance, for treatment, or beer, or something that was made for this purpose. Aside from this exception, they would say that given that your credible physicians have prescribed this medicine, and your credible physicians have told you that there are no halal alternatives, it is permissible to use it. So as a patient, as a Muslim patient, what should you do when you are prescribed the haram medicine? Tell your physician, is there an alternative that doesn't have porcine ingredients? Comparable alternative, an alternative that will do the same job, that does not have porcine ingredients. If they told you no, there are no alternatives, take it.